Hello everyone and welcome to the new session of the lecture series, and today we'll be discussing and solving all the NCERT based multiple choice questions from the topic photosynthesis in higher plants. Alright, so let's start with the first question. So here they are asking that photosynthesis is options are physiochemical process, option B is physical process, option C is chemical process, and fourth option is energy wasting process. Alright, so let's talk about this option A, physicochemical process. So what happens during photosynthesis? The light energy is converted into what? Chemical energy. Alright, so light energy, again if you talk about light energy, means physical, okay? The light energy from the sunlight, okay? So means it is that is the physical process, okay? Capturing of this sunlight or capturing of the energy of the sunlight. Alright, this is the physical process. And what is the chemical process? Conversion of the light energy into what? Into chemical energy. Initially, what happens? The energy is stored in the form of what? ATP and NADPH. Alright, so initially the light energy is converted into the chemical energy in the form of ATP and NADPH, and this ATP and NADPH are then utilized in what? For the synthesis of carbohydrates during the biosynthetic phase. Alright, so we know that photosynthesis consists of, or takes place in two phases. First is the light reaction, alright, during which light is required, and second is the dark reaction, also known as the biosynthetic phase, or you can say dark phase, okay? So what should be the correct answer here? Option A is the correct answer. Now let's move on to the next question, which is photosynthesis is important because it is the primary source of food on earth. Second option is it is responsible for release of oxygen in the atmosphere by green plants. Okay, third option is both A and B. And fourth option is it is responsible for release of water vapor, okay, into the atmosphere. So let's talk about the first option. It is the primary source of food. Okay, this is true. Okay, so what happens? The photosynthetic plants and all which contains the chlorophyll, okay, what they do? They synthesize carbohydrates, okay, by utilizing what? Energy of the sunlight, carbon dioxide and water. So what happens during photosynthesis? Carbon dioxide, okay, water is also used, and sunlight, okay. Using all these, carbon dioxide is fixed into carbohydrate, means this is the source of the food, okay. These carbohydrates are, okay, such as glucose are produced, okay, and then these glucose can again be further converted into like cellulose, you can say. Alright, and these cellulose, these materials are then used by the plants to form different structures, okay, and also it is utilized as a food by whom? By the herbivores. Alright, so this point is correct. Photosynthesis is the primary source of food on earth. Alright, photosynthesis is also carried out by algae. Okay, cyanobacteria also, which are blue-green algae. Now, coming to this point, it is responsible for release of oxygen. Yes, this is also true. Oxygen is released during photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide is fixed. Along with carbohydrate, you can say oxygen evolution also takes place. It takes place how? By splitting of the water molecule. Okay, the water molecule. Alright, it's split. Where? You should know that at photosystem 2. At photosystem 2, water harvesting complex is present. Okay. Water harvesting complex is present at what? Photosystem 2. Alright, that's why oxygen evolution is related to photosystem 2, which happens due to the splitting of the water molecule and oxygen is released in the process. Okay, again here if we talk about, so this is 2H2O if we write. Okay, this will give you 4 hydrogen, okay, free radicals, and it will give you oxygen. Alright, so oxygen is released due to the photolysis of water. Okay, and electrons are also released here. So what should be the correct answer? Option A and B are correct. So option C, both A and B are correct options here. The next question is, photosynthesis is the transformation of light energy into chemical energy. Chemical energy of light. Chemical energy to light energy. This is not true. This is the opposite. Light energy to kinetic energy. This is also not true. And then solar energy to potential energy. Okay, so what should be the answer? During photosynthesis, light energy is converted to chemical energy initially in the form of ATP and NADPH. Alright, and this NADP and NADPH are further utilized in the biosynthetic phase to produce carbohydrates. Alright, and this carbohydrate can again be broken down during the process of respiration to produce ATP later. Alright, now coming to the next question. So now they have given you these chemical equation. Okay, now what they are asking, they are saying which one of the below represents the correct empirical equation of photosynthesis. So we know in photosynthesis, what happens? First, carbon dioxide is reduced. Okay, so first substrate is carbon dioxide, then water is also involved. Okay, water is involved. Okay, splitting of water gives you oxygen. Alright, and it is the source of electrons also. So this is also very important. Alright, and then light is required. Alright, during the light reaction, then chlorophyll molecule is also required. Alright, this chlorophyll molecules, these are the pigments which absorb the sunlight. These are the pigments, photosynthetic pigments which absorb the sunlight. Okay, so, and what happens? Carbon dioxide, water, light and chlorophyll are required, and what is produced? Oxygen is produced. Carbohydrates are produced. So this is glucose. Okay, C6H12O6 and some water is formed. So these are the options here. So this is not correct. Okay, this is the opposite here. Again, they are saying C6H12O6. So this is not produced. So here they are talking about respiration. This happens during respiration. Breakdown of the glucose molecule. Again, 6CO2, 6H2O, light. So these are quite similar. Option C and option D are quite similar. But what is the answer? Option D is the correct answer. Okay, this is the correct empirical equation of photosynthesis. So option D is the correct answer here. The next question is, one of the earliest experiment on photosynthesis was done in 1770 by Priestley. So what was the experiment done by Priestley? He did the bell jar experiment. Alright, he did the bell jar experiment, and what did he show? He showed that there is restoration of air. Restoration of air by the plants. So what he did in bell jar experiment, he kept a mice and a burning candle in a bell jar. That's why it is known as bell jar experiment. He kept a mice and a burning candle in a bell jar. Okay, this was the first setup. Okay, then what happened after some time? Mice, or you can say the mouse, died and the candle exhausted. Okay, so this was the first setup. In second setup, what happened? Okay, after some time he observed that the mouse died and the candle also exhausted. Okay, means it was not burning. So what he did, he introduced a plant. Then what he did? He introduced a plant along with the mouse and the burning candle. Then what he observed? When he introduced the plant, the mouse was alive and the candle was still burning. Okay. So from this experiment, he said that the plants and animals restore the air for each other. Okay, what will animal release? They will release carbon dioxide due to respiration. This carbon dioxide is utilized by the plants. Alright, and what will plant release? They will take in carbon dioxide and they will release oxygen. Okay, and this oxygen is used by the animals. Okay, so the options are, first option, sunlight is the ultimate source of energy. Not true. Water is essential for life. Again, not true. Chlorophyll captures light energy. In this case, in this experiment, not true, but by Joseph Priestley experiment, so option C is correct. Plants and animals restore the air for each other. The next question is contribution of Ebbinghaus in elucidation of the process of photosynthesis is that. Alright. So what did Ebbinghaus? So what experiment did he did? Alright. So he kept the Elodea plant. So he was working on the plant, okay, which was Elodea. Okay, so this is an aquatic plant, Elodea. So what he did in the first setup, he kept this plant in a jar. Okay, so it was water here and he kept this plant here. Okay, suppose this is the Elodea plant, and first he kept this in dark. Okay, in the second setup, what he did, again the same plant Elodea, okay, which was kept in water. This is the aquatic plant. This is the Elodea plant, suppose. Okay, here is the water. Then he illuminated this with the sunlight. Okay, he kept it in light. Now what he observed when he kept it in light, there were evolution of oxygen, okay, which can be seen by these bubbles. Okay, so these bubbles are oxygen bubbles. Okay, so from this experiment, he concluded that only green part of the plants exposed to the sunlight or the light can convert the foul air, which consists of carbon dioxide, into pure air, which consists of oxygen. Alright, so this is the correct answer here. Other options are not correct. Green plants convert light energy into chemical energy. Not correct. Plants have the capacity to purify foul air. So this is also not correct here. Sunlight is the ultimate source of energy for plants and animals. This is also not correct. Alright, so Einghouse, okay, from the experiment showed that only green parts of the plant exposed to light can convert carbon dioxide into oxygen, or you can restore the air. So option A is correct. Alright. Now coming to the next question, which is the experiment material used by Van Niel to prove that oxygen comes out from water was studied on. So what was Van Niel experiment? He was working on purple and green sulfur bacteria. Alright. So what did Van Niel showed? He showed that oxygen is released by what? By splitting of water and not carbon dioxide. Okay, so oxygen is released, or you can say the source of oxygen is water. Okay, and not carbon dioxide. So he was working on purple and green sulfur bacteria. And what are these bacteria? These are photosynthetic bacteria. Alright. So these are photosynthetic bacteria that reduce carbon dioxide, or you can say that convert what? Carbon dioxide into carbohydrates by utilizing H2S, okay, hydrogen sulfide, that convert carbon dioxide into carbohydrate by utilizing what? Okay, by utilizing hydrogen sulfide instead of water. Alright, so he showed that there was evolution of sulfur, okay, from this experiment. Okay, so if we replace H2S with water, okay, then what will happen? What will we observe? We will observe the oxygen evolution. Okay, if we replace H2S with water. So from this experiment, he showed that the oxygen is released from the splitting of the water molecule, and he was working on purple and green sulfur bacteria. Alright, so correct option is option C. The next question is the pigment molecule responsible for photosynthesis are located in. Alright, the first option is cytoplasm of the cell, which is not correct. Matrix of the mitochondria. So this is obviously not correct because the pigments are present in the chloroplast and not mitochondria. And then third option is thylakoid membrane of the chloroplast, and fourth option is all of the above. So this is also not correct. So correct answer should be thylakoid membrane of the chloroplast. Okay, so the pigment molecules. All right. What are photosynthetic pigments? Okay, pigment molecules like chlorophyll A. Then we have chlorophyll B. Another chlorophyll. Okay, these are accessory pigments. This is the primary pigment. Chlorophyll A is the primary pigment which forms the reaction center. Okay, what does this form? It forms the reaction center of the photosystem. Now chlorophyll B, and then we have carotenes, then we have xanthophyll. These are known as accessory pigments. Okay, all these three are accessory pigments. All right. So all these photosynthetic pigments are present in the thylakoid membrane. Okay, so the thylakoid membrane, if we talk about the thylakoid membrane, they consist of the photosystem 1, then photosystem 2. Okay, and these photosystem 1 and 2 consist of the photosynthetic pigments. Okay, and then it also consists of cytochrome B6F, which is involved in the electron transport during the electron transport chain, and also it contains ATP synthase also, which is involved in the ATP synthesis. But here we are talking about these photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. Alright, because pigments are present here, photosynthetic pigments. So correct answer is option C. Okay, thylakoid membrane of the chloroplast. The next question is, which of the following does participate in the process of photosynthesis? Alright, red algae, green algae, brown algae, or all of the above. So now let's talk about the pigments present in red algae. So red algae contains primary pigment chlorophyll A, then it contains chlorophyll D. Alright, and along with it, it also contains phycoerythrin. Okay, that's okay. So due to presence of phycoerythrin, it is red in color. Along with phycoerythrin, it also consists of phycocyanin. Green algae, okay, mostly contains chlorophyll A. Chlorophyll B is also present, and some accessory pigments are also present. Then brown algae consists of, or it contains chlorophyll A, and then it contains chlorophyll C also. And it is brown algae, so it consists of some one more specialized pigment known as fucoxanthin. Fucoxanthin is also present. So you can see in all of these algae, photosynthetic pigments are present, and because of the presence of photosynthetic pigments, they can participate in the photosynthesis. So what should be the correct answer? All of these. Alright. So all of these is the answer here. The next question is, which part of the plant do not perform photosynthesis? So this is straightforward. Cactus stem. Okay, this performs photosynthesis. Okay, cactus stem is, you can say, it is an example of phylloclade. So what is a phylloclade? Phylloclade is a flattened stem which have internodes, and it is photosynthetic. Means it can carry out photosynthesis. So this is the modification seen in what? Xerophytic plants. In xerophytic plants, and the leaves are modified into spines. Okay, so the function of photosynthesis is taken up by the stem. Now guard cell of the stomata. Now guard cell also contain the chloroplast. They also contain chloroplast. Means they can also photosynthesize. Okay. Now third is mesophyll cells of the leaf. These also contain chloroplast. Alright, so option we are left with leaf epidermis. So leaf epidermis is not involved in photosynthesis. Okay, but it is involved in what? It provides protection. Alright. Okay, and then gaseous exchange also. Okay, it is also involved in the regulation of gaseous exchange, or you can say gaseous exchange. And then again, it is also involved in regulating the water vapor, or you can say the process of transpiration. Okay, so what should be the answer here? Leaf epidermis. Now in this figure, okay, a figure is given to you. This figure shows the diagrammatic representation of the section of the chloroplast. Now few parts are marked as A, B, C, D and E. Okay, now what we have to do? So question is, combination of which part is responsible for trapping the light energy and also the synthesis of ATP and NADPH. Alright, so options are ABC, BCA, BCD and ACD. Alright, so let's again talk about this figure. So A, what is A? A here is stroma lamellae, or you can say stroma thylakoid. So these are involved in light reaction. Okay, and then B. B is what? You can say it is a thylakoid, which is again involved in the light reaction, and this entire is the grana. Okay, then C, what is C? C is the stroma. Okay, or you can say fluid of the chloroplast. What is D? D is the starch granule. Again, there is no role of starch granule in what? In the photosynthesis or the formation of ATP and NADPH. And what is E? E is the lipid droplet here, which is again doesn't have any role in production of ATP and NADPH. Alright. So what should be the correct answer? A, B and C. Okay. Stroma lamellae, thylakoid and the stroma. Okay. You can say thylakoid or you can say grana also here. Okay. If we talk about the whole entire structure. What are grana? Grana are the when the thylakoid are stacked over each other. Alright. So what does ABC? Now ABC forms the membrane system. Okay, it forms the membrane system, which helps in the generation of ATP and NADPH. Okay, all these stroma, thylakoid, these are involved in the light reaction. Alright, now why we are talking about the stroma? Okay, in stroma what is present? We talk about the stroma. So NADP reductase enzyme. So this is present at the stroma side of the thylakoid membrane. So this is present where? At the stroma side of thylakoid membrane. And where does synthesis of NADPH take place? The synthesis, or you can say that's why synthesis of NADPH occurs where? It occurs in stroma, because NADP reductase enzyme is present there. So correct option should be A, B, C. Alright, now let's move on to the next question. How can we separate leaf pigments of any green plant? So this is a straightforward column chromatography. No, it is a very complex process. Then we have electrophoresis. Again, this is not true. Gel electrophoresis. If we talk about gel electrophoresis, it is for the separation of the nucleic acid. Okay. And then we have radioisotope. This is also not true. Radioisotopes are not involved. And then option we have left with paper chromatography. So this is the correct answer. We can separate the leaf pigment using paper chromatography. So what happens during paper chromatography? Okay, it consists of a mobile phase, which is the solvent. And then we have the stationary phase, which is this paper, which is usually cellulosic in nature. So during paper chromatography, first phase is the mobile phase, then we have the stationary phase. Mobile phase is the solvent, and the stationary phase is the cellulose paper. Now what is the criteria of the separation? So the chemicals which are mixed in the solvent are separated, alright, as they move along the stationary phase. Okay, so this is how the pigments are separated. So if suppose this is the stationary phase, which is the paper. Okay. Here we have the solvent, which is the mobile phase. Alright, this is the paper. Okay, so this is the cellulose paper. So in this solvent, pigments are dissolved, and what will happen? It will form these spots like this here. Okay, different color spots. Okay, so the pigments will migrate. Alright, and then due to the different migration rate, these spots are formed. So paper chromatography can be used for the separation of the leaf pigments. So here what is the migration rate of pigments? Okay, determine the separation process. Okay, now next question is, what is or are the function of accessory pigments? So accessory pigments we've already talked about. These are chlorophyll A, carotene and xanthophylls. Okay, so what are the function of accessory pigments? First option is they enable a wide range of wavelength of incoming light to be utilized by, okay, or to be utilized during photosynthesis. Okay, this is true. Then option B, they absorb light and transfer the energy to reaction center. So this is also true. We know that accessory pigments are present. These accessory pigments transfer the, okay, they absorb the sunlight, okay, and they transfer the energy to what? To the reaction center, which is chlorophyll A. Alright, so this option is also correct. C option is all of the above, and fourth option, they protect reaction center from photooxidation. Alright, so what happens? Some accessory pigment like carotenoid. So what they do, they, instead of transferring energy, they absorb the energy from chlorophyll A, which is the reaction center. Alright, so what happens? Sometimes at very high light intensity, okay, during very high light intensity, the chlorophyll A molecule can undergo photooxidation. Photooxidation means release of electrons. Okay, during high light intensity, the reaction center, which consists of the chlorophyll A, can undergo photooxidation. So what happens? Some accessory pigments like carotenoid, okay, they absorb the energy from the chlorophyll A, and that's why it prevents photooxidation. Okay, so this is how accessory pigments protects the reaction center. So what should be the answer? All of the above. Now next question is again related to accessory pigments. So accessory pigments play no role in photosynthesis. Not correct. Release electrons and get oxidized. Not correct. Transfer of electron to an ADP. Not correct. And then allow plants to harvest visible light of wider range wavelengths. Okay, because what happens? Chlorophyll A, which forms the reaction center, it usually absorbs light in what region? Blue and the red region. Okay, mostly. Okay, maximum absorption is in the blue and the red region. Okay, but accessory pigments can absorb light, okay, in the wider range, and then it passes on that energy to the chlorophyll A molecule, which is the reaction center. So answer should be option D. Allow plants to harvest visible light of wider range. The next question is, chlorophyll is suited for the capture of light energy because, okay, certain wavelengths of light raise it to excited state. This is true. Then in its excited state, chlorophyll gives off electron. So this is also true. And third option is chlorophyll structure allows to attach to thylakoid membrane. This is also true. So chlorophyll has, okay, if we talk about structure of the chlorophyll, it has the porphyrin head and it also consists of the phytol tail. So this phytol tail is hydrophobic. Okay, this is hydrophobic, and this tail helps in the attachment of the chlorophyll, molecule to the thylakoid membrane. So this is also true. Attachment to the thylakoid membrane. Okay, so what should be the answer? All of the above. Okay, so this was the end of this lecture. We will continue with the rest of the questions in the next session. Thank you very much for listening.